Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Talk with Brandy. Today we're going to be talking about self-esteem. We're going to talk about our internal dialogue and why the heck are compliments so hard to accept. So as I've said before, peer support is sharing our lived experiences strategically with the people that we come beside. And so throughout our videos, or my videos, I'm going to be sharing some of my stories. And the point of sharing our stories is to add connection and to feel seen and heard, because we are not alone. Brene Brown says that connection is when we feel seen and heard. So connection for me is at the very top of my list. For every person I meet, I want everyone to know that I see them and I hear them. And part of that is because I know what it's like to not be seen and heard. Some of my story of where my self-esteem was back just growing up and all throughout my 20s practically. And a lot of people didn't think that my self-esteem wasn't there. Like, I've always been so outgoing and so friendly and so bubbly, and it doesn't bother me if I go and ask a guy out. Like, I would do all these things that people would perceive that part of me was like a high self-esteem. But in reality, what it was is that was just me. Like, I don't know, that's part of my personality. When I was younger, some of the things that I heard growing up were very hurtful, as many of us. And as I tell my story, the work for you is to kind of dig within your own story. And that's what peer support does too. And that's what mental health therapists do. We really kind of help you self-reflect so that you could figure out where you're at in your life. So every single one of us, our stories will be different as to why our self-esteem might not be high. And also why our internal dialogue might not be a positive one. So some of the things that I heard growing up and very frequently was, "You're fat. Guys don't date fat girls. You need to lose weight." I've been called a whale before. There's just a lot of things that I endured. And when I was younger, obviously all of those things hurt. And they could be very detrimental. Now, there were other things in my life that helped create that negative internal dialogue, and I'm not going to share all of those experiences. But this one was pretty, in particular, one that really shaped my life for many, many years. Our society puts beauty on this pedestal. It puts beauty out of reach. It's unattainable what our society does. And so when you're in an environment where you feel that you're not being seen and heard, and you're being told that you're fat, guys don't want to date fat girls, you're being told all of these things, internally, my script became very negative. And guys didn't ask me out in high school. Guys didn't ask me out really after high school as much either. And I didn't really realize that maybe some of them were trying to ask me out. I wasn't aware back then, so maybe they were trying to ask me out, but I wasn't aware. But then I would ask them out. So, and anyway, that was just really hard. So my internal script became, "You are not worthy of love. You are fat. You're disgusting. Nobody wants to love you. You're not cute. You're not pretty." That literally was my internal dialogue almost daily. And part of it was I wasn't being seen and heard in my environment growing up. And that became really devastating. I did not understand how to get over that. I did have I was very active in church for a while, and there was somebody that I valued quite a bit back then. And I remember sitting in their office, and they told me that I just needed to get over it. "Can't you just see you're beautiful?" And I was so perplexed. I was like, "No, I'm not." And because all of my life I had been told, you're fat, guys don't date fat girls. So that was my internal dialogue. And he told me I should just get over it. I left that meeting feeling more shame and blame than I had ever felt in my life, because it was obviously my fault that I couldn't see that I was pretty, right? Like, you're just stupid, you know? Again, that negative internal dialogue. What did you hear growing up? Did you hear, oh my gosh, you're such an amazing person? Or did you hear, you know, your thighs are too fat, don't wear shorts, okay? Or did you hear, why do you make such stupid mistakes? Or, God, how can you do something so dumb? You know, those scripts that we hear as children become the reality of who we are as adults. Our logical brain, we don't function from our logical brain very often. We can logically see, gosh, you know what, that doesn't really fit. Like, I feel like maybe I'm pretty, but it doesn't matter because our subconscious brain is what we function from. So that's where I was back in, you know, growing up in my 20s. It wasn't until my 30s that I started to take my life and steer my ship. So that required for me a lot of self-reflection. It requires healing. It requires leaning into pain, and it can require reaching out to a mental health therapist or a peer support. Please do. Like, I am encouraging you. This is one reason why I'm doing this, to share my journey, that we are all imperfect and we are all worthy of love and belonging. So I started that journey, and it wasn't an easy journey. Like, I didn't quite see that I was pretty, and you know what, to be honest, being beautiful is subjective. Everybody will be attracted to different things. So I was working with a therapist who challenged me to find some safe men. For me, it was men. I needed some validation from men, because she saw where I was wounded, and she challenged me to ask for some validation. She said, please, you know, just let them know, find safe people, let them know what we're working on, and see if you could get some validation. And I reached out to some of my guy friends, and I was kind of blown away by some of the kindness of the things of how they saw me. I couldn't see in myself what others could see in me because it was blinded by my pathway of my brain that was already made. So slowly and surely, I started to work and read books on self-help. Like, you know, why is it important to accept a compliment? All of that stuff. So I'm gonna do a little I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just showing you something. We're gonna use this red piece of candy as whatever. I'm using it to show you something. So this is our brain, okay? So let's pretend we are born, and when we're born, we have very minimal experiences, but I want to acknowledge that we have experiences already. Being in the womb, the baby's experience, everything that mother is going through, everything that the environment is. So our brains are going to be created in our environment. But when we're born, you know, here's our brain, it's beautiful, not a lot of experiences. And what happens is when we're living, obviously, we have experiences, right? And our brains really, for whatever reason, and I'm sure a therapist can explain all this. I could if I went and Googled it, but I don't have the words to tell you that. But it is said that we need at least five positives to neutralize one negative experience. And so in my life, and I'm guessing in many of our lives, we might not have had that many positive experiences. The cultures that we grew up in are the adult imposed. You're going to listen to me because I'm the adult and I said so. Oftentimes creativity or questions, things parents might not have known the answer to. Good-hearted, willing adults, just, they didn't stop to think about maybe everything that they're saying, because it's imprinted on us. We do it, right? Until we start to become aware. And this is where I am. I'm aware. So I'm creating different patterns for my own children and for people who come into my space. So what happens is, though, the things that you hear as a child, the negative things especially if you're not hearing a lot of those positives, they become our experiences, okay? So if you've had a number of negative experiences, your brain is being wired to these experiences, okay? So now we've got this familiarity, okay? Our brains love familiarity. They like everything that is familiar because familiarity is safe. And ironically, familiarity might not be safe depending on what you grew up in. If you grew up in abuse of any kind, any of those things. We have grown up, many of us have grown up not thriving. We've grown up in survival mode. So our brains have created pathways to help keep us safe. So this negative internal dialogue that was created when we were younger is our familiarity, right? And we start to believe the things that we are told. And they become our reality. And here it is. Here's the thing where I think this is the most beautiful thing. And this is where I was in my life when I started to get that validation and started to read about why taking a compliment is so hard. This is why a compliment might be so hard. So somebody would come along and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're just so beautiful. And I'd be like, what? Me? No, totally not. I would deflect it. And maybe not so much in front of them. It would feel so awkward. Like when I would hear those words, I wanted to run. I was like, no, you're not talking about me. That is not me. So let's say somebody came along and said, you're so smart. And all of your life you heard, God, what are you, stupid? That right there can create see if I'm saying it right, a visceral reaction. Like your whole entire body can go, wait a minute, because this right here has been your familiarity. So when somebody comes along and says something beautiful and kind and loving, and you haven't been there, if that has not been your familiarity, our brain, guess what? Nope, not going there. I am rejecting that thought. And this is where we become stuck, right? So this is the beautiful thing, though, about our brains. Let's say let's implement another beautiful, kind soul into your life. And that person is finding your strengths and is somebody who just wants to see the beauty in you, the kindness, the whatever it is, and they come along and they're like, oh my gosh, I think you're so intelligent, right? And here we've got our brain who is wired for this negativity. You have a compliment that comes in and it wants to reject it, right? Here's the part where this is where it takes work. If you want to change your negative internal dialogue, if you want to change and grow your self-esteem, this right here is one way to start that path. So when you have this compliment, we need to accept it in. So, or we should, if we want to grow our self-esteem. You need to do what's right for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm telling you what helped me to become the self-confident person that I am now. So this compliment came in, right? And for me, I'm going to use my own life example. I heard things like, gosh, you're so beautiful. Or, you know what? You are just, you're so amazing. Like, why are you single? All of these things that I started to hear. So when I first started hearing these things, it was so uncomfortable. And we really want to give people compliments back. We want to fill their cup too. And that's fine, but we don't need to do that. We don't have to, in the face of somebody giving you kindness, always give it back. If that's something that you do naturally, great. But here's the thing, learning to accept that compliment or other positive things about us that really go against what we've been taught is hard. And when we start to accept them in, here's what's going to happen. We're going to start to unwind that negative self-talk. And this beautiful positive one is going to start becoming, guess what? Your new pathway. Because you're allowing that positivity in. And our brains can be rewired. That is the beautiful thing. It takes work though. It's not something that you can just go, oh, okay, I'm just going to be confident. We have to unwind the negative internal dialogue that was created, and we have to rewind with this beautiful, beautiful kindness. That's a step. If you want to create a more positive self-esteem, I challenge you to do that. Start learning to accept compliments. So there's one thing that we can do, and I have mentioned before, seeing a mental health therapist is completely acceptable and important, and finding the right fit is as well. There's also another thing that I'd like to share, and we can go into this kind of stuff in different videos as well, but body language. I encourage you to go Google confident body language. I used to stand, and because I don't have somebody filming me, I'll show you, but I used to stand with my feet like this. And we are wired to tell the story through our bodies of who we are and where we are. A lot of us it has not been brought forward to the conscious mind. So subconsciously, I was standing small. I was not taking up my space because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe I deserved to take up space. So I went on a journey and I started Googling confident body language. And here's what it looks like. Taking the alpha stance, okay? This is seriously important because when we start to take up that space and we acknowledge it in our brain starts to create, again, that new pathway. We start to say, oh my gosh, I am worthy of this space and I'm going to take it up. And it can be really hard. Body language it is so natural, but when you start to become aware of it, you can create that positive body language, which in turn will also help increase self-esteem. So, body language where you make yourself big. When you stand up, I don't know if I can do this, but, try not to cross your shoulders. Try to allow your arms to just come by your side and be open. So when we see people with open palms, that's body language of, I'm really open to you. I want to share with you. These are the kind of things that we can learn and grow. So I won't go into a really big depth conversation of body language, but those are 3 things that you can do to help increase your self-esteem, help rewire your negative internal dialogue to a positive one, and to learn how to accept compliments. All of those things are intertwined. And so if you want to become a more confident person, I challenge you to start allowing those compliments in. Because guess what? You are amazing. You are so completely amazing exactly as you are. It's just that somewhere along the way, someone in your life didn't show up or said things to you that created a lot of pain. And I'm sorry that has happened because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to hate yourself. Again, my negative internal dialogue would say, I'm so unworthy of love. I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to take up space. I'm hideous. I'm fat. I'm disgusting. All of these things that it used to be. And where I am now, I don't have that. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect and sometimes negative thoughts don't creep in because we're human, okay? And we live in a pretty cruel environment at times. There is so much negativity and hatred and things that are spewed at us and everything of social media. We flock to editing all the time, which is great. I get it. I'm really not going to edit my videos, mainly because I don't know how, and I'm not very good at it, so I'm being real. But as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't want to create this image of somebody that I'm not, because I'm human. You are human. We are imperfect. This perfect BS has to go away. And this inability to connect and see one another needs to shift. Because if we want to see a shift in our culture where people feel valued and loved, heard, and understood, we need to start allowing these positive things in. We need to stand up and be that change. We need to create that space for each other. I can't do this alone, but we can do it together. I believe in you. And even though I might not know you personally, I truly love people and I love you. And I know that might sound funny and things to say, but every human being I come in contact with, I want the best for them. I don't want people to suffer through pain and the feelings that I know that so many do, because I've suffered through it and I don't want that for people. And I know that's just reality and it's unfortunate, but that's why I'm here doing what I'm doing, because I want you to know that you are valuable, you are needed, and everything that you are deserves to be here. So I leave you with this thought. Please feel free to like and subscribe. I am not allowed to, well, nobody's allowed to, it's not just me, but we are not allowed to live stream on YouTube until we have 1,000 subscribers. So if you really appreciate this video, if you appreciate this content, please like and share and encourage one another. I want you to know that you're important, and if you feel not seen and heard, I want to see and I want to hear you. So have a beautiful week. I'm not sure next week what we're going to talk about yet. I have some ideas. I have a wonderful friend who is a therapist to anybody, I'm sure, but he does focus on beds, and he has offered to kind of do a coffee talk with Brandy. And so we're going to let this unfold, okay? So whatever you guys want to hear, please join me on Facebook as well. It's Coffee Talk with Brandy. And feel free to email me and give me suggestions on things that you want. Feedback is great. I am imperfect. I am always open to learning and loving and growing, because that's life. Anyway, I love you guys. Have a beautiful day. I will talk to you soon. Bye!